Ladies and gentlemen, if we can please take a seat. We're about to start. We know we are a bit late, but we just wanted to give everybody a chance to grab a coffee before starting the last session for today. So please come in and take a seat. So welcome back, everybody. My name is Massimo Gasparon. It's not Bernd Schaefer, so there has been a last-minute change to the program. I am the director of the European Raw Materials Alliance, and I will be chairing this session today together with Roman Opimark. What we're going to do today is, of course, we're going to give an opportunity for industry to speak. This is a business-to-business meeting, so we want to get things done. Of course, it's very important to get the government and the policies behind what we are doing, but at the end of the day, what we want is to have projects on the ground. We want to have activities, and we have to have a concrete dimension to this collaboration. So the program for today, I'm going to give you a very brief overview about what is ERMA, and most importantly, for those of you who are not familiar with it, how to join ERMA and what you can get out of ERMA. Then Roman will give you a bit of an overview on what's happening in Ukraine, so critical and construction raw materials opportunity in Ukraine. And then we'll have some awards from the financial sector. So we have the facilitator from the ERMA side, we'll have the financing sector, and we'll have an overview of the Ukrainian activities. And after that, we will have 4 companies presenting their projects. And the session will end at 6:20, but that doesn't mean that that's the end, because the idea is that any of you who are interested in the projects that are going to be presented today can continue these conversations with these companies and see how you can collaborate. And of course, Roman and I will be very happy to assist in this process. That's really what the role of ERMA is, to facilitate things, to make these happen. So without further ado, I'll pass the word to Roman. Do you want to say something at this stage? Or? Yeah.
Thank you, Massimo. This is the first business forum between the EU and Ukraine in terms of the critical raw materials. We are pretty happy and appreciate for so warm host of this event in Brussels. So again, we believe that the next event will take place in Kyiv as soon as possible. Today, it's a unique opportunity because first 4 mining Ukrainian companies with a greenfield and brownfield project will participate. So I believe the investor will find the interesting proposals, the interesting opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roman. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what ERMA is. Of course, you will get a chance to get these slides if you want to peruse them. ERMA is an alliance that was established by the Commission back in September 2020. Its kickoff was on the 23rd of November 2020. So we really have become operational since around May 2021. So we are still fairly new, but we think we have already achieved quite something very important. Our goal is to secure access to critical and strategic raw materials, advanced materials, and processing know-how for Europe's industrial ecosystems. So we deal with raw materials, advanced materials, and most importantly, skills. So know-how that needs to be kept within Europe to continue with the innovations and to continue to be competitive over time. We do 2 things. One is to bring together people to discuss things and to make recommendations to the Commission on what needs to be done to fix problems. And we have released, in this context, we have released our first action plan last year that deals with the rare earth permanent magnet value chain. And we are in the process of releasing our second action plan that will deal with raw materials for energy storage and conversion. We hope to publish this by the end of the year. The other main line of activity is to support investment cases. And I will talk a little bit more about that in the next few minutes. The ERMA family is right now made of around 680 entities. There's about 2/3 of them are industry. Then we have a number of associations, government organizations, universities, RTOs, NGOs, a trade union, and the financial sector. Among these, we have 17 Ukrainian partners. So we have 3 national authorities, 1 university, 2 associations, and 11 industries. In terms of investment, what happens is that companies come to us with an investment case. We make an evaluation, which means we consider whether this investment or whether this idea fits with the scope of ERMA, and whether we can do something to support this project and what we can do to support the project. So we go through a 2-stage evaluation process. The first stage involves only an internal evaluation within the EAT raw materials people. The second one involves external evaluators. And if the project passes all the different stages, essentially we get together with the company and make a plan on how to develop the project and how we can provide the support to the realization of the project. Up to this point in time, we had over 130 proposals that have been submitted to us. Around 38 of them are in their final stage, which means they are feasible from a point of view of their financial, economic, social, environmental viability. And we are working together with the companies to advance the projects. Out of these, we have 1 advanced case from Ukraine, and we'll hear about, so it's one of the cases that are going to be presented today. But we have a few more cases in the pipeline. And if you look at the combined investment needs of these projects, you're looking at around 500 million euros. And I believe this is only the tip of the iceberg. So we are really looking forward to getting more proposals coming through the ERMA pipeline from Ukraine, so that we can really support you with this massive effort of rebuilding the economy after the tragic events of the last few months. The impact of these projects is going to be phenomenal. So if all these things are realized, and now I'm not just talking about the projects from the Ukraine, this is the whole ERMA pipeline, we really can fix things. So, for example, we have already identified projects within Europe that will be able to provide more than 70% of the EU demand for rare earth concentrates, more than 20% of the EU demand for oxides and metals, and more than 20% of the EU demand for magnets. This is only in the rare earth permanent magnets value chain. If you look at other materials, we have enough borates to fill all the EU demand in 2030. We can supply over 60% of the lithium that is needed for batteries for electric vehicles, more than 20% of molybdenum, vanadium, titanium, and so on and so forth. So the potential is really huge, but of course we need more projects in the pipeline. So when do you enter the ERMA investment pipeline? This is a very complicated slide. I'll just spend a few minutes to talk about it. But essentially, when you go from the left to the right, the left is when a project is at a very early stage of development. That does not fit for ERMA, but we have other instruments within, of course, Horizon Europe and within EAT raw materials that we can use to support a project in this very early stage. Then we have a number of other financing mechanisms that we can use to support the upscaling of a project. And when a project is ready or almost ready to be commercial, that's when it can enter the ERMA pipeline in full. But we are very happy to take a project at an earlier stage and work with them over time to help develop the project so that over time it will end up into the ERMA pipeline. So anyone who has an idea, who has a proposal, who has a project, if you're not sure whether it would qualify, so to speak, to enter the ERMA pipeline, come and talk with us, and we can have a conversation and we can help you understand how the process works in full. So this is the when, and then an important point that we can do within ERMA is to help you find the financing solutions. What that means is that ERMA itself is not a bank, it's not an investment agency. We do not have money that we can give to projects, but what we can do is to bring together different financing instruments and the granting instruments to get the project going. And we do have a very good partnership with EBRD and with EIB through the Clean Tech Materials Task Force that was established last year specifically to advance projects in the raw materials in Europe. And through these mechanisms, we can help with the provision of equity, loans and guarantees. But we also have very strong links with private banks and private investors and investment funds. Right now we have a portfolio of around 15 different investment instruments that we can use to support projects. In addition to that, of course, we have access to our own funds from EIT Raw Materials to support upscaling, but also to other granting instruments that are established by the Commission, such as the Recovery Fund through the Just Transition Fund, the Innovation Fund, which is managed by DG Climate, and other funding instruments. So the beauty of ERMA is really the ability to bring together all these different bits and pieces of financing at the right time so that the project can go ahead in the best possible way. How to do it? It's very simple, 3 steps. So first step is join ERMA. So there's a bit of marketing here. So you go to the erma.eu website. There's a tab up there about us. If you click on that, there's a tab Join ERMA, a very simple process, online application. You just need probably 5 to 10 minutes to do so. Once you join ERMA, you'll be contacted by us. We can start talking about your interests, how you want to contribute to ERMA. And if you have an investment project that you want to submit, again, through the website, there's a tab up there that says Investment. Click on that, scroll down the very end of the page, and submit proposal. And at this stage, you will be asked to compile a very simple, again, online form where we ask you to provide a little bit of information about the project. Then we'll get back to you and then we'll start the process of really refining exactly what we need to make our evaluation, and then we can start the whole discussion. So very, very simple to get into the pipeline. Of course, I'll be here for the rest of the day to support you if you need any information about that. So I think I'll stop my presentation here and I'll pass the word to Roman for his side.
Thank you so much. So I will try to give the general overview where we right now in terms of the critical raw material in Ukraine and what kind of reserves and potential we have. And then the Ukrainian mining companies will present their own portfolios. So Ukraine is among top 10 producing countries for titanium, kaolin, manganese, iron ore, graphite, and zirconium, and also has proven reserves of so-called low-carbon metal with low carbon future used in innovative technology such as lithium, rare earth elements, nickel, cobalt, and beryllium. Deposit of 22 out of 30 minerals included in the list of critical for the European Union are concentrated on the territory of our country. To unlock those deposits, Ukraine needs capital and cutting-edge technology. That is why the Ukrainian government introduced open door policy for investors and prepared over 200 exploration and production sites with critical raw materials which will be available for licensing through online bidding auction, either production sharing agreement tenders. Both ways are open for foreign investors. The additional way to enter the Ukrainian market is by grabbing the existing license. And this is a strategy the World Resources, the Australian company, purchased the production factory of graphite this past year. We have already placed 30 greenfield and brownfields investment opportunities in the investment atlas, providing an online access to legacy geological data and respective English description. You can take one of them hard copy on the end of the table. On top of that, we selected and placed 1,200 deposits of critical raw materials on an interactive map. Among them are fields and promising sites, which are available for the exploration and further development. Let's have a look on a couple of slides to explore a bit more details about the critical raw materials potential of Ukraine. Titanium. Ukraine is one of the 10 leading countries in the world in terms of proven reserves of titanium and accounts for 7% of global production. 28 fields and more than 30 ore bodies have been discovered. The main titanium-containing minerals are almenite and rutile. Zirconium is often a co-product. Currently, titanium is mined as 6 heavy mineral sands fields, from which 900,000 tons of concentrate are produced. Now it is available to refine up to 50,000 tons of concentrate into the sponge inside of the country, with further processing of titanium metal abroad. The next one is lithium. By now, lithium is not mined in Ukraine. Its reserves account for nearly 1/3 of those proven in Europe. There are 3 exploration fields with a lithium oxide content of 1.1 to 1.3%, and 1 promising occurrence for exploration. One petalite field is licensed with approval reserves according to JORC classification. Rare and rare earth metals. Reserves of rare earth metals such as tantalum, niobium, and beryllium are known to exist in 6 fields. Currently, tantalum and niobium extracted in non-commercial volumes is carried out only as a co-product of titanium ore. There is 1 huge licensed beryllium field in Ukraine, which reserves of 15.3 thousand of BO, containing also titanium, niobium, zirconium, tin, molybdenum, lithium, and zinc. Cobalt. There are 12 silicate nickel fields in Ukraine, which contain cobalt as a co-product. The known cobalt reserves are up to 9,000 tons. Graphite. Ukraine is one of the world's 5 leading countries in terms of graphite reserves, which are about 19 million tons of ore, with a natural graphite contains of 5 to 8%. There are 6 known fields, one of which currently produced annually 5.5 thousand tons of graphite concentrate and was acquired in 2021, as I mentioned, Australian public company. Ukraine has all necessary mineral resources to reconstruct our country. Geological conditions of Ukraine are favorable for exploration of construction raw materials. We placed 6,000 sites with raw materials for construction on one of our interactive map. I do believe the rich mineral resources, the good mining legacy, preferable country location, prepared business opportunities, and multi-optional licensing approach, access to the comprehensive data and one-stop shop permitting procedure have ensured the advantage of Ukraine and arrival of foreign capital in Ukraine's mining sector. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Roman. And without any further ado, we'll pass the word to the banks to give us their perspective. So we'll start with EBRD.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Berenguel. I'm an associate director in EBRD. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I'm going to briefly talk about EBRD's activities in the mining sector, which focus on Ukraine. Very briefly about EBRD, for the ones who don't know. We're a AAA-rated international financial institution. We have been operating for more than 30 years. In a wide range of countries, 38 countries in particular, that cover Central and Eastern Europe, Central Asia and Southeastern Mediterranean region. We're owned by 71 countries, including Ukraine, EIB and the EU. We invest mostly in the private sector, although we do also some public financing. And we do that on a commercial basis, so we don't do grant or we don't do subsidies. We operate commercially, providing loans or investing in the equity of companies. Typically in a year, the bank would invest about 10 billion euros across a range of sectors, and that's about 400 projects, 80% of which are private sector companies. So what do we particularly do? Maybe don't try to read the slide because it's quite small letter, but basically it's generally two types of instruments. For mining in particular, any expansion of an existing mine, any brownfield operation, we would typically grant loans, and the size of the loans can vary, but normally we don't do more than 30–40% of total project costs. And the size could be anything from 10 million euros to 200 or 300 million euros. And that's normally for what we call relatively medium risk operations. And that's the bulk of what we do. 90% of our activities is on debt financing. But then for selective cases where we feel that the project merits maybe taking higher risk, and that's possibly greenfield projects, pre-DFS mining projects, we would, excuse me, we would invest in equity, and that generally a smaller size of investment. We take minority stakes, and we would plan to exit the investment in a period of 5 to 7 years. So typical amounts of equity investment is between 5 to 10 million euros generally. So as Peter Handley mentioned, we recognize the need to finance more early stage projects. So we are, I would say, gladly progressing our discussions with DG GROW to put in place a facility whereby the EU would cover part of the losses on a portfolio of exploration mining companies. We're thinking about a portfolio of between 7 to 10 projects over a period of 4 to 5 years, of total amount of 50 million euros, of which maybe half of it would be covered by the EU in the form of a risk-sharing instrument. So hopefully we can close this. I'm looking at Peter, who is not paying attention, so I can say that. Hopefully that could be put in place early next year. And the countries that this facility would cover are basically Horizon Europe countries and EBRD countries, which Ukraine is part of that. Yeah, I think this has been already mentioned in the past, but very briefly in Ukraine. So Ukraine is one of the largest countries where the bank invests in terms of investment amounts. Cumulative, we have invested 18 billion euros. This year, we are on track to finance 1.5 billion euros, half of which has been guaranteed by the donors. Yeah, pretty much that's it. Then I'm going to skip these slides, not because they are not important, but just because there's not much time. Maybe just here to mention, we have always, and we continue to demand that all our investments meet best practices in terms of ESG and corporate governance. That doesn't mean that when we make the investments, the companies have to already be operating at that level of international practice, but we help the companies and we expect a commitment to reach that best practice within the period of our investment. Maybe more in particular on natural resources. So traditionally in the team we have been financing mining and oil and gas projects. So if we take into account both the hydrocarbons and the mining, we have invested a cumulative of 10 billion euros. This is about 200 investments, of which, and now at the moment we have a portfolio of mining-only projects of 1 billion euros, and that's about 30 clients. And to give a sense of what sort of companies we work with, So on the left-hand side, you have companies that are not in Ukraine. So that includes Centerra Gold, with operations traditionally in Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, Turkey. We have the Chelopech mine in Bulgaria. We have Tumat, Yildirim in Turkey. So a wide range of companies. In Ukraine so far, we haven't been able to invest widely in the mining sector, but mostly have been in the gas sector, providing working capital facilities for the purchase of emergency purchases of gas. Well, I'm going to skip this, and I'm just going to focus on two investments in critical raw materials in Europe or close to Europe. One was an investment of equity of about £6 million, and that was in a polymetallic mine that was still at pre-FS level. That was Adriatic Metals in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's an investment that is doing pretty well. And the other one was the end of 2021. This was a Canadian investment of $8 million Canadian dollars, and that was for the reprocessing of mine tailings for manganese and production of high purity manganese for the electric batteries. So that was also an equity investment that is hopefully will make a lot of money for us. We hope to be able to continue doing these sort of investments, not only in Ukraine, but in our countries of operations. So I think that's it. These are our contact details. We have been already in discussions with the companies that will be presenting the business case afterwards. And these are very compelling stories. We hope that we will be able to progress the discussions with them. But if there's anybody else that has a business case to present to us, please take note of our contact details, because unfortunately we cannot stay longer in the session due to logistics. But thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll now pass physically the microphone to Mark Mohini, who is going to give us a perspective from the EIB. You have slides?
Yeah, there's 2 slides. Does that work? Okay. And you can hear me? Okay. I am going to do a much shorter presentation. We've only got 2 slides. It's partly because we are a bigger bank than EBRD. We have a 60 billion euro finance sheet, but we have a smaller presence in Ukraine. And it was very interesting to see the EBRD, and it is quite useful to follow what they've put together, because you can see some of the differences and some of the similarities. Okay. Okay, so as I said, I've concentrated on 2 slides. The first slide is about the lending products that we would normally have in critical raw materials. And they're not hugely different from what Anna has put together. There's the venture debt, the thematic venture debt, and the project financing. I noted that Massimo was saying that there's 16 companies, and other people were saying that there's 16 Ukrainian companies in the IRMA and EBA. And it would be very useful, if as part of the process, they begin to understand how venture debt, thematic, project financing, all those sorts of instruments work. Because as you can see, both banks use them, and both banks work with other players in those sorts of fields. The thing that I would say is that a lot of the use of this has been within Europe, where the players, the investors, etc., are all very comfortable with it. And the issue that Anna raised of risk is something that we need to take on board when we're looking at these going forward. Okay, and the second slide, okay, is the position of where we are in Ukraine and particularly with critical raw materials. Now, what I would say is, as I said, we have a much smaller presence than EBRD in the Ukraine. At present, most of the effort goes into short-term emergency support and ongoing work that is already in a variety of these areas in the Ukraine. I'm aware of some of the work that we're doing in the support of digital developments, etc. So there is some ongoing stuff, but it's not related to the critical raw material value chain in the Ukraine. And in talking to the teams, the business development teams that are involved in the Ukraine at the moment, the question for them at the moment is the planning for priorities going forward. There is a view, certainly in EIB, that the immediate reconstruction efforts, the humanitarian efforts, the infrastructure, will be the areas where the EIB will be looking to add value. We do expect there will be interest in critical raw materials and that it will be reasonably strong. The reason for that is about boosting export revenues, but we're not sure about whether it will be a priority going forward. So we're waiting to see, in a sense. In essence, that's one of the differences, I think, between EBRD and EIB. EBRD are looking at first mover because they already have a strong presence. We are slightly further behind, in a sense. As I said, the normal project, the normal instruments that we would use are ones that are everybody's aware of within Europe. And as a result of the risk and all the discussions that we had pre 4 o'clock in the previous session, with the thought on risk, etc., it is thought within the bank, and I know that there is already work on a dedicated financial instrument which will be created in 2023. That is likely to seek Commission support as well. The discussions that we had last year indicated that the Ukrainian authorities are very clear on wanting to see TA. And again, we talked about that in the previous session about transparency, which is important going forward for IFIs. There was also discussion again about environment, etc. And again, we talked about this in the previous session. Just to add to that, the only thing I would say is that in listening to Anna's presentation, I would probably point out that the scale, EBRD look at quite small projects going forward in Ukraine. I think the EIB traditionally in these sorts of areas would be looking at slightly bigger projects. But the similarities would be along things like best practice. One difference, and it's something that I should have brought up in the previous session, which I should have said, is in listening to EBRD, they still appear to consider hydrocarbons, and you raised the issue of flooded coal mines. From the bank's point of view, the board are the member states. You have 71, we have 29. The board, at this point in time, would look at coal mining as an area that would not be viewed as eligible from an EIB point of view, although there's ongoing discussion about that because of the situation across the globe at the moment in terms of energy. So that, in essence, is where we are.
We'll open it up now for questions from the audience. And if you do have a question, please, would you kindly state your name, your affiliation, and who the question is directed to? That would help immensely. So don't be shy. Here's your chance. Everything is clear. Maybe I can... Oh, sorry.
This is a question, well, I'm Anna Berenguel, you already know me. I have a question for Mark, actually from EIB. I don't know whether you can answer at this stage, but you talk about a dedicated financial instrument that will be created in 2023 for critical raw materials. Is there anything that you can share with that, or that's still under early discussions?
If I can answer without I'm afraid that it's beyond my expertise. It's the sort of thing that gets developed by the business development teams, and I'm not in the business development team per se that is likely to be doing this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Dwayne Runciman from Moorish Magnesium. So we're a Romanian-based company. I'm going to ask a little bit, Mark, you talked about thematic, was it thematic venture debt? Can you expand a little bit on that? Because it's kind of caught my attention.
Actually, it's interesting because with the two banks in the room, it allows us to compare and contrast in a sense. There's not a massive difference between venture debt and thematic venture debt. And I'm aware now you've asked the question that I've fallen into the trap of the acronyms that are internal to the bank and to European institutions, etc. The thematic venture debt is in general venture debt where there are guarantees frequently, but not always, through support from the Commission, so that there's a first, you were talking about a first loss piece guarantee, and it's the same sort of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Mark. I'm Michael from World Resources. So I would love to ask a question regarding your new facility in 2023. I understand you don't know the framework and everything, but who is the main contact in EIB for critical raw materials and leads the process? And is there a process?
Sorry. I mean, first and foremost, by the way, I'm aware that if I sit facing this way, you can probably all hear me, but I can't see people, so it's a bit of a strange place to sit. But in answer to your question, the bank's a complex beast. It has 3,000 employees. It currently is split in terms of how business development takes place, and as a result of that, how financial instruments are developed. On the basis of geography, but also on the basis of the types of financial products that there are. Yeah. The question you asked is a very good one, because in this sort of case, it is most likely to be primarily developed by the teams that are involved in the Ukrainian area. So it would be someone like Nina Van Doren. But you also asked the question about who leads on critical raw materials, and within that, there's a number of teams who are involved. When we're looking at the development of a financial instrument, it's likely to be the Ukrainian team and the coordination units within the operational team. My own team would have a small part to play in it, but it would be in making sure that from a technical point of view, it makes sense. But it would be led by probably someone around Nina Van Doren. Yeah. I know you've already been talking to the bank, I'm aware, but I would say that it's inside Europe.
Any question? Yeah, there's another question there.
Hello, my name is Andre Klim. I'm representing Metinvest here. And my question is whether you consider iron ore from Ukraine in the scope of raw material activities alliance, in the scope of all these exercises. It's one thing. And second, whether do you consider iron ore in terms of decarbonizing steel production going forward? Thank you.
So that's a question both for me and for Roman, I guess, right? More for me, yep. Yeah. So within the context of ERMA, the main focus is on critical and strategic raw materials. We included the strategic because we are fully aware that there are some elements and minerals that are not in the critical raw materials list right now, but that will be because they have strong strategic importance. So thinking about copper, for example, or nickel. Traditionally, we haven't focused on iron ore as such, but we do a lot of work with elements that go into steel production. So like vanadium, molybdenum, chromium. So that's the answer I can give you at this point in time. Maybe Mark, we wanted to keep you off the hook for a moment, but go ahead.
Thanks very much. Is this what? Oh, this one works. Okay. Likewise, within the EIB, iron ore wouldn't be. It would be very similar to what Massimo has just said. It's not viewed as a critical raw material, so iron ore itself wouldn't be seen as a priority. However, you've just raised. You know, this is part of what we're here to talk about, the value chain. And decarbonization of steel is something that the bank is quite heavily involved in terms of investment at this point in time. It's got a few projects.
Right. We already discussed this issue a few months ago when talking about priorities for the reconstruction of Ukraine, because, you know, having lost Azovstal and an important part of Ukraine's steel production, it's clear that if we're going to help Ukraine rebuild a steel industry, it's going to have to be the steel industry fit for the future, right? So it has to be about the pathway for decarbonization. And we've already got quite a lot of investments happening here in EU27, which are very much about how the iron ore feeds into steel production through DRI, replacing coking coal, using green or renewable or clean hydrogen, and then you've got your green steel and you've got a whole new business, right? So as far as I'm concerned, my unit's not just raw materials, it's energy intensive industries and hydrogen as well. This is very much a core part of what we should be talking about with Ukraine. What are their needs in rebuilding many of these energy-intensive industries that have been knocked out by the Russians, which are, you know, they're the bedrock for the value chain and the downstream manufacturing sectors in Ukraine.
Any more questions from the audience? Maybe if I can go with final questions to Anna and Mark again. Sorry to put you on the spot again, but everybody wants to hear what the banks have to say. Just an impression, if based on your experience, someone came with a project to you, or you see a lot of projects landing on your table, what is a word of advice that you can give to our Ukrainian colleagues in terms of presenting a project that has a chance to fly? So what are the main issues that you see, or what is one thing that should be avoided, or one thing that is very important in your assessment? So we'll start with Anna and then Mark.
Yeah, I would say many things are important, but if I had to say something, don't try to rush it. Sometimes we see that clients, because they want to get into cash flow, positive cash flow early on, they maybe cut corners in environmental, social and impact assessment, or maybe on technical reports. Maybe JORC is important for international banking financing. So I would say try to do a good job from the beginning. Don't cut corners, especially ESG matters. And I think that would give you in the long term much more options than if you try to do a quick job that maybe gives you the funding initially, but once you start developing the mine, you really need large amount of money, you need reputable investors. So that would be my advice.
I'd love to argue with you, but I'm not going to. I think that's essentially, I would agree entirely with that. And this is the thing about, the compare and the contrast. I think at the end of the day, what we're looking for are bankable projects. Bankable projects are things that are projects that are well developed in a thoughtful, timely manner. And I suppose if there are a couple of minor's the wrong word altogether, but if there's a couple of things that I would raise, I would say environmental impact is quite important for the bank. And the other thing is the clarity in terms of supply and demand. So offset agreements, etc., are quite useful to have.
Thank you. I think we are back on time. So thank you very much to all the questions and to all the people who answered. Please give them all a round, and yourself a round of applause. Before we start with the next session, where these 4 companies will present their projects, and before giving the word to Michael Prasas, who is going to present their project, the Zavalieski project in Ukraine, I would like to thank all of you for being here. Special thanks to these gentlemen here for coming from very far away to participate in this event. So it's very much appreciated. And thanks to all of you for being here under sometimes very difficult circumstances. So a very heartfelt thank you for being here today. And we really look forward to advancing this partnership, not only today, but of course, as Peter mentioned today, we are here for the long haul. So let's just get it started today. It's just the beginning. So without further ado, Michael, please go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the opportunity today to present Vault Resources. And today also our CEO is with us, Trevor Matthews, and I will hand over the microphone to give him the opportunity to speak.
I guess it's okay to stand, is it? Yeah. Due to the change in agenda over the last couple of days, I lost a spot on a panel, so I just bumped Michael out of the role and speaking on behalf of Vault and Zavalieski Graphite as well. So Vault's an ASX listed company, and about mid-2021 we purchased a 70% interest in the Zavalieski Graphite business from 3 private shareholders that were or shareholder groups that were selling out of the business, and 30% shareholders remained. We see, a lot of value in the Zavalieski business, and particularly from the point of view of, the opportunity, I think, to develop a business that, themes that have been mentioned today around, the green energy, resilience, and digital transformation. So they're sort of, those are all sort of key elements of our plans for this business. So it's a turnaround asset. It's had underinvestment for a long period of time. So it does need, it needs capital, and Vault's been putting in some capital along the way. It's been a little bit difficult, obviously, since the Russian invasion. But this is, I would describe it as a world-class project in the context of the resource base, its location in Europe. There's not a lot of graphite resources and mines, and certainly, limited operating plants. So this is a unique sort of brownfields business that sells products, traditional markets, so not so much into the battery industry just yet. And I guess, useful to explain that graphite is about 30% of the actual material that is used in the manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries. So it's the dominant mineral. Currently supplied almost, exclusively out of China, with some other East Asian sort of companies or country involvement, but, very limited production, and our sort of plans for this business is not only to look at graphite production in its mined and concentrated form, but also
manufacturing or transforming that product in Europe into battery anode material to supply it to cell makers and car OEMs. So when we talk about, the resilience, and, this mine is currently, well, we restarted the business following the invasion in April. We suspended it and then restarted in August. It's been a little bit choppy because of logistics and transport and working capital issues. So everybody wants to be paid, on order, and we don't get paid for, a couple of months after we deliver the product. So you wind up with these big working capital sort of funding facilities. So it would be nice if some of the suppliers were a little bit more generous with their risk-taking in terms of supply materials for a Ukraine business. In any event, we're about to put some more capital in. We raised $10 million this week on the ASX, and some of that money is earmarked for Zavaleski. And again, that's trying to bridge this sort of working capital gap and put some more some more funds into the business. So, this is an opportunity to develop a project, not develop it, but continue to operate it, stabilise it, and feed graphite into Europe using the local supply chains. And we're also doing work in terms of this downstream business. I'll just get it to move. So the reason we can operate in the current environment is we're sort of on the western half, if you like, not too far from the border with Moldova. So we haven't experienced any real issues in terms of, the hostilities and the outcomes, or the activities that are underway in the east and southeast. And so, that's why we took the decision back in August to restart the business. But, this business has been around for 87 years. It's got, all the transport infrastructure, grid power, water supply. The village has sort of been developed around the mine, and it's got a large resource base. What we only sort of report a subset of it. ASX is pretty strict in terms of what's international reporting codes you're allowed to sort of report on, which is mainly, I guess we would use the JORC code, which is the Australian International Reporting Code for Resources and Reserves. The Russian estimates are subsets on the board there, about 23 million tonnes at 6.8%, but in actual fact that's about 1/5 of the actual Russian classification system resources. So you're talking about somewhere around 115 million tonnes running at the same grade, 6.8%. So it's 7 million tonnes of in situ graphite. So when in rough terms, doesn't mean you can get every tonne out, but I guess the opportunity for this business, when we look at some of the slides, and one of the slides I think Roman put up there, our production rates at Zavaleski have been around 6,000 tonnes per annum in previous years. For the short periods of time we've been able to operate consistently, we're seeing production rates that would put this mine at about 20,000 to 25,000 tonnes per annum. So there's things we need to do. They shut down for winter at the moment because of cold conditions sort of affect transport of tailings and processed water. So we'd love to somehow engineer that out, and that would pick us up 2 or 3 months of production. We've been feeding grades, lower grades, and so we think there's an opportunity to get up around 30,000 tonnes per annum. So this stage, we've got a 3-stage plan for Zavaleski. So we call this sustain. It's mainly around focusing on things like, putting in the governance systems, looking at ESG in general terms. So improving, or helping to fund and facilitate the improved sort of environmental management and systems around that, social investment programs, and also, as I've mentioned, governance. So these sort of CapEx numbers were originally developed to get to about 20,000 tonnes, not quite, but up around 18,000 tonnes per annum of a standard mine grade uniquely, one of the things Zavaleski does is it produces a purified graphite. So standard grade would be sort of around that 94% carbon, but here we're talking about a processing circuit that can make 99.5, not quite battery grade, but not far off it. So we think with a bit of investment, we can, achieve battery grade purification at the mine site, which is unique outside of China. Probably doesn't happen a lot inside of China too, because of the way businesses get separated here. So there's really good opportunities even in the current environment. So we're doing this, while the current hostilities are underway, and the Zavaleski management team's doing a great job in that sector. So beyond that, our next stage is to get beyond that sort of 20,000 tonne per annum production and look at what are the opportunities to expand this production. This is where the resource numbers come into play. So under this investment, we're looking at about an expansion to 50,000 tonnes per annum at standard grade, and that would be 94% TGC. And we would sort of break that down further, making about 45,000 tonnes of 94, and then up, purifying another 5,000 tonnes. And with that investment, I spoke about making a battery grade material that could be sold on to CSPG manufacturers in Europe. So, sorry, not CSPG, to cell makers and, it would be CSPG manufacturers, because we're only purifying at this stage. So that's one of the plans. I mean, 50,000 tonnes seems a little bit light on. If you've got 7 million tonnes in the ground, that's 140 years of mine life. So, we think the opportunity's there to go beyond this. We haven't really mapped that out, but we could be looking at about 100,000 tonnes per annum of graphite. In Europe, you're probably going to have a demand somewhere around 1.6 million tonnes. Yeah, I'm a bit conscious of time, sorry. Stage 3, this could be done in a different order. I guess we see opportunities to start looking at anode CSPG plant now, based around just getting to 25 or 30,000 tonnes. We could have manufacturing facilities maybe making as much as 20,000 tonnes of anode material before we get to that mine expansion, which is the stage 2. I won't go all through all that, but that's basically what I've just spoken about. These are the simple process steps. This is the value chain. So if you look at the top's just the mine product, you can sell it for, roughly, anywhere between 650 up to 1,200 tonnes. Prices move around, so they're not representative market. When you do SPG, you're probably making products around that sort of $3,500 to $4,000 a tonne. And then down the bottom, when you just do coating, you're talking about products that make $8,000 a tonne. So there's quite big value add, and that's opportunities, I guess, for the business and how we can add value to products produced in the Ukraine environment. So there's a little bit about Volt here, but clearly an important part of our strategy is Zavaleski. Producing graphite puts you in a different sort of discussion with cell makers, car OEMs, and those sort of groups. Particularly when you're talking about manufacturing battery anode material to be utilised in cells and obviously for electric mobility and energy storage. So, important to have a good team around you as well. I won't go into great detail there, but we have a pretty experienced team. Today I've got Michael Pressis with us as our business development head in Europe. We also have Roman and Dimitro, who are executive management from the mine here, so happy to talk to anybody after the session as well and talk more about Zavaleski or our plans. So thank you for that, and I'll hand the microphone on to the next speaker.
Yes, thank you very much, Trevor, and thank you for sticking to time, even with a couple of minutes to go. And just for the next presenters, if you see me going like this to you, it means you have 5 minutes left. Then if I go like this, it will be 3 minutes, and then when I start jumping around, it means that the time is over. So we'll pass the microphone and the word now to Andries Molin, who is going to present a project about Avellana Gold. So please, Andre, the floor is yours. Yes. Yeah, it's just a green button, yeah. And again? Yes.
Again. Yeah, here is Avellana Gold. We are on a long run in Ukraine. It is the 6th year. We are in Ukraine. Avellana Gold was created to identify, acquire, and develop and bring to market the best mineral opportunities in Ukraine. We know that Western Ukraine was mostly ignored during the original rush by Western mining company into the Balkan countries like Bulgaria, Serbia, Montenegro, Romania. In spite of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Ukraine has the potential to become the next Poland in Eastern Europe. That's why, back in 2016, we acquired 3 properties. It is Muzhevo mining license and 2 exploration licenses, Beregovo license and Kvasovo license. Our company is Avellana Gold, even though at some point of time it was proposed to rename us into the Avellana Zinc, because actually we are a polymetallic company, and I will tell you about our focus. Avellana Gold team now is determined to start generating $38 million of the free cash flow as soon as possible from our mining operations. And our second target is upgrade our reserves to the equivalent of 2 million ounces in the gold equivalent. So what we have? The first of our property is the Muzhevo property. It's the most developed property in the Beregovo mineral district. It was in production as a small gold mine, but now we proved it to be the much larger polymetallic deposit. Beregovo deposit, our second asset, is simply adjacent and contiguous with the Muzhevo deposit, and it is part of the same epithermal polymetallic mineralization system. The style of deposit found in Beregovo mining district is typical for intermediate sulfidation epithermal system. Gold and mass metal are zoned in a system with the gold veins only in the top portion of the deposit, and polymetallic mineralization at depths. As you can see, all 3 licenses are in the same area, and it's very close to each other and close to the both Hungarian and to Romanian border. The distance between our Beregovo and Muzhevo deposits actually is the one deposit, and our exploration target, Kvasovo ore field, is simply 8 kilometers. So we believe that all 3 properties can share the same mining infrastructure and can be developed sequentially. On the bottom part, you can see the railroad, as well all the properties connected by the hard roads. So coming to the figures, Muzhevo is the most developed property with exploration works dated back to 1970s. Previous work established C1, C2 Russian reserves that recorded on the state balance of Ukraine. Beregovo deposit has similar geological setting as Muzhevo. Beregovo block was vertically displaced 100 meters down relative to the Muzhevo deposit. All our measured and indicated resources are in the range of 50 to 300 meters depth, so we pretty shallow deposit. And totally we have around 30 million tons of ore with average grade of gold 1.6, silver 20 grams per ton, silver 27 grams per ton, lead 1.2, and zinc 2.3%. Together it gives us around 5 grams per ton in gold equivalent, or around 8-9% in a zinc equivalent. As I told, at the different stages of our development, we was turning the figures either to gold equivalent, but recently we're turning it to zinc equivalent. So 8% zinc, maybe it can be a good investment. Kvasovo property is our greenfield project. There are only 2 diamond drill holes, very apparently colored on the Kvasovo property. Also we did some surface sampling, including soil geochemistry, identified gold, silver, and base metal anomalies, covering an area of approximately 10 kilometers and centered on the Kvasovo caldera structure. We assume around 20 million tons of prognostic mineral resources at this area. There are some grades, but I would not give you any figures about grades. It is still the greenfield project. But one of our strategic advantage is that not only Beregovo and Muživo and Kvasovo is available at this region. So when we're talking about the Beregovo district, we have also Begansky mine, we have Buchansky mine. I mean, not in our ownership, nevertheless, it is close in this area. So totally in the very compact area on this side of the Carpathian Mountains, we have roughly about 100 million tons of ore available either for mining or for exploration. In terms of metals, it is about 270 tons of gold and more than 5 million tons of lead and zinc in metal equivalent. If we switch from history and geology actually to Avilana operations, I will briefly lead you through our history. So during our first 3 years of operations, Avilana obtained all the necessary permits, and into 2020, Avilana Gold built a modern processing facility with capacity of 200 tons, aimed to complete recultivation of waste left on the surface during exploration stage. So currently, we are continuing to do our ecological project. We are processing dumps. Nevertheless, we managed to get the commercial product. Also, in that year, we prepared minimal resource estimation report reviewed and signed by Wardell Armstrong that included development and updated 3D model. The scope of this study included analysis of more than 4,500 boreholes. So it was a very big job that takes almost a year. Last year, we continued cooperation with the Wardell Armstrong and issued CPR report on Muživo and Beregovo properties. Also, we was proud to produce first 50 gram per ton gold concentrate and receive valuable information on beneficiation of Muživo gold ores. At the same year, we got contracted with Lazarus Mining, involved and developed short-term life of mine plan that targeted 200 tons per year production. This project considered investment in the recovery of existing exploration tunnels and its adaptation to the limited mining operation. This year, 2020, we upgraded our processing circuit to the 3 stages of gravity separation. Currently, in both office work and production work in Ukraine, our team consists of around 50 people, and our production facility currently working 1 shift, but despite the war, we are going to switch to the 3-shift operation maybe this year. It depends only upon the weather condition. Also, I can say that due to ecological restriction, we started from the gravity factory, and as far as nobody using gravity in Europe and Balkans, we are one of the most sophisticated gravity units in Europe. So I have never seen nothing compared with the 3-stage of beneficiation that we have at our existing factory. Also this year, we signed a commercial contract for sale of our high-grade lead concentrate as a main product. As you see, this gray material in the picture is our commercial product. We have an initial offtake agreement. We are contracted. Unfortunately, we are contracted not with European company. Also, we received our first gravity zinc concentrate that is currently the main subject for our processing research. Also, we launched flotation study for 3 types of Mujiva ores, including direct stage flotation and stage gravity plus flotation scheme. We started recovery work on one of the 6 underground levels. We work out new mining strategies that consider 3 stages of mining operation extensive, starting from 60,000 tons per year, 120 and 250. Roughly, we believe that we can jump from 60 tons to the 120 within 1 year. To jump to the 250 or 200, probably we would need around 2 years of the underground development and extension of our underground infrastructure. Also, we implemented unique waste disposal system that allows to circulate 90% of water and create high-quality sand and washed kaolin clay applicable in both construction and ceramics. As you see on the picture, that's gold or yellow picture with greens. It is our waste product. It's a pure clay, and in 3-4 weeks, some greens start growing. So that's why we believe that we are a very eco-friendly company. What we're going to do next? Of course, our main target for the next year is to launch underground mining operation and extend the range of our commercial product. I'm saying limited just because of the some war uncertainty. I'm saying to extend the product because the fact that we receive 2 commercial products out of the waste, some of our off-takers do not believe us. So we are sure that after having such a dramatic experience with dumps, we would be capable to produce both zinc and lead concentrate out of pure underground ore. Our next target is complete the design of flotation unit with capacity 10 tons per hour and launch laboratory flotation circuit 1 ton per hour. At current operation, it's very difficult for us to send our samples every week. That's why we make a decision that maybe 1 ton's flotation unit would help us to make the industrial study on site. We have staff, we have access to the ore, and with some limited investment, I think we will make a significant jump in our knowledge, in our understanding of the flotation metallurgy the next year. Also, as I told, we are seeking to switch our sale focus from China to European Union, and maybe with your help, we would finally get contracted either with Boliden or with Umicore. These 2 companies are capable to process our gravity concentrate. We are in contact, we have been in contact, we received proposal. The problem is this proposal is not competitive comparing with the Chinese proposal, unfortunately. The next target is to receive banking financing and expand our mining fleet, underground mining fleet. Expand the Beregovo drilling program, because Beregovo, it's our passion and our future. Also, we are going to launch additional assaying of ores for copper and for platinum. As you see on the picture, very nice blue spots. The spots appeared just on the fourth week when they opened the mine and the fresh air went underground. Formally, on the paper, we have only galena at this place. Nevertheless, epithermal deposit normally has the copper grade, and we want to extend the assaying of ore for copper and start copper drilling as soon as possible. Also, we want to finalize our processing study and get zinc carbonate and gold doré bars as the final commercial product targeted for both Ukrainian and international markets. Oh, okay, it's a little bit old version of presentation. So on my table, I have a processing scheme for the hydrometallurgical process that was laboratory tested on our mixed gravity concentrate, and it allowed to receive the zinc product, lead product, and precious metal product based on the hydrometallurgical leaching. First of all, it considers zinc product because this metal is most soluble. And we believe that we will receive our first carbonate this year. And we are open for cooperation in this area with European companies. And for further operation, we consider establishment of a hydrometallurgical joint venture or our own production in one of the European countries. So, now we're doing this strategy. As a private company. Our current stage of development is investing $5 million into the underground operations and rely upon existing reserves and existing cash flow. Nevertheless, we do understand that the core value of the company is in resource base. That's why we consider that investment around $40 million can brought us to another level. We can connect two deposits, Mujivo and Beregovo deposit, with a spiral and build new flotation facility and using existing facility simply as a pre-concentration unit. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. And now we move to the, so we finished the section on brownfield mining projects. So we start the next section on greenfield mining. So we have two projects. The first one will be presented by Sergiej Wojciechowski from BGV Group. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I think that after such a hard work, we are a little bit tired from the figures, from different details, from different companies and so on. And that's why I want to start my presentation from small video. Can we show it?
Get acquainted with Ukraine, the breadbasket of Europe, a major player in the metallurgy market, a transport hub. In the 21st century, this is not enough. We are creating a new high-tech industry, an industry that will bring together nanotech, robotics, space research, innovative healthcare. We are creating a new economic reality. The time has come for boutique metallurgy. The Ukrainian mines and carriers are rich in rare earth and trace elements. Reserves of raw materials crucial for modern industry are found here. These are priceless components. The consignment of such metals can consist of several grams, but without them, it is impossible to imagine space exploration, complex surgical operations, the production of miniature gadgets, and the development of nuclear energy. Without them, the future is impossible. The Ukrainian shield contains the deposits of unique minerals: titanium, uranium, beryllium, tantalum, nickel, cobalt, gold, and many others. The deposits are concentrated in well-explored regions of the country, with extended transport links and industrial infrastructure. Cobalt. Cobalt is used in space and aviation technology and in the chemical industry. This is the main raw material for the production of batteries. Nickel. Due to heat resistance and corrosion resistance, nickel is indispensable as a structural material. It is the basis for stainless steels. Nickel is also included in the so-called superalloys. In the aerospace industry, they are used to make turbine parts. Tantalum. Tantalum capacitors make an indispensable part of portable electronic devices, laptops, video cameras, communications equipment. This is a unique material for the production of surgical wire, sheets, and foil for fastening tissues and nerves. The human body accepts tantalum as its own bone tissue. Titanium. The 21st century is the century of titanium. Titanium alloys are used in rocket engineering, aircraft construction, and in the production of parts for oil and gas drilling platforms. Graphite. The industrial use of graphite is incredibly diverse due to its characteristics and properties. It is indispensable in metallurgy, engineering, nuclear energy, and with the production of graphene, graphite must certainly be considered the stuff of the future. Beryllium. Without beryllium oxide, it is impossible to make high-performance computers, lasers, radars. Having the largest stock of beryllium ores in Europe, Ukraine may become a pioneer in the production of beryllium alloys. The world has entered an era of new technology. The demand for resources for the technologies is growing steadily and irreversibly. Ukraine is a storehouse of various metals. It has developed scientific and experimental infrastructure. Ukraine is a unique logistics hub located at the crossway of transport corridors between the countries of Europe, the Middle East, and the states of the Asian continent. Ukraine is a unique opportunity to participate in the creation of a high-tech industry in the center of Europe. Ukraine is a country of the future. Invest in Ukraine today.
Thank you so much. It's a little bit easier now to present our country and our projects, because you know now that Ukraine is not only about brave people and a very good agricultural businesses, but about rare earth minerals and metals. Let me start my presentation from our company. Actually, BGV Group Management is a Ukrainian investment company. It's a fully private company. Belongs to well-known Ukrainian businessman, Mr. Gennady Butkevich. Actually, BGV Group has the focus of our investment in different Ukrainian mining assets, mainly assets that connected to rare earth metals and critical minerals. We have in our pipeline a couple of projects that we will discuss today a little bit with high level of details. This more about graphite and beryllium, but actually we have granite, gas and oil, uranium, zirconium as well. This is the map of our country with our Crimea, Kherson, Donetsk and Lugansk, and actually the license and belong to our company in different regions of Ukraine. Here you can see that mainly we have three main regions of our interest. First of all, this is Zhytomyr region with deposits of rare earth metals, beryllium, zircon, titanium. The central region, central south, let's say, this is Kirovograd, Odessa with graphite projects, and let's say central north, the Kharkiv and Poltava region with gas and oil deposits. Graphite. Actually, I will not stay a lot on the main figures in graphite market because now the audience is quite professional, and we know for sure that it is a very high sophisticated and growing market. We have a lot of different analytics from benchmark mineral, from different professional companies, and even when we try to focus on the previous figures, for example 2020 or 2019, all the forecast was with a very big gap. The forecast was not able to make the right figures even for 90% of the market, let's say. Now regarding the new forecast, we know that the market will reach $21 billion in the graphite market in 2027, and actually it will grow. It will be growing for 30% year to year. If we make some small summary about our project, we have two main deposits, one in Kirovograd region and one in Odessa. We are neighbors not only in this conference with World Company, but we are neighbors in our project as well, because the distance between our deposits is less than 4 kilometers in south region of Ukraine. We are going to produce around 100,000 tons of graphite concentrate, and but actually BGV Group doesn't want to be the company who will give 1 million tons of different raw material to the market. We want to focus on the products with high added value. That's why in graphite market we think that this product is SPG. This is a spheric graphite. This is a special product from graphite that is widely spread in lithium batteries and energy storages. This is a couple of figures from the exact analysis of our deposit in Balachivka. This is, let's say, a testing of our samples and exact figures from using SPG graphite from Balachivka in batteries. And I'd like to say that the quality is very high, and regarding this documentation, it is very close to the highest level of capacity. Actually, the company that we are working for is the leader of the market in graphite. This is Plan, a German company. This is, you can see the geography of our graphite deposits. One of them, as I told you, is in number 5. This is Balachivka deposit, and number 6. This is the closest to existing Zavalevsky World Resources company, Zarechna deposit. In general figures, Balachivka has around 44 million tons of ores, and with a very good rate and percentage of carbon content. This is 6.27. Actually, all the figures are based on the researchers, not on our local standards, but this is regarding NI standard, and as I told you, we have been working with leaders of the market in this topic. This is just figures about the Balachivka. Actually, we can, let's say, increase the area of working from, let's say, 44 till 100 million tons of graphite ores. This is the timeline of the project. Now we have completed all the PFS analysis, and till the end of the year we will have some model complex. in Germany have to make the three main production. First of all, to produce concentrate. Secondly, to make the purity of this concentrate more than 98%. And the third idea is to make the spheric graphite from this concentrate, and we have the opportunity to make SPG up to from the 50% of our concentrate. In 2024, we will be ready to start construction because the next year we will spend for design of the plant and factory and all the details of facilities in Balachivka. And regarding our internal plan in 2026, we can boost the level of capacity of the plant for 100,000 tons per year. This is, of course, like a greenfield project. We have investment capacity. Now the main figures that I want to show you, this is $250 million. So this is investment capacity of this plant, of this facility. The second, our deposit, Zarichna, based in south region in Odessa. It has around 20 million tons of graphite ore, and with carbon content 5.5%. As I told you, it is not so far away from existing plant, and actually this is one ore with Zavalia in terms of the geology. I'd like to show one more interesting project from our company. This is a beryllium project. As I told you, it based in Zhytomyr region in Perzhanskoye deposits. It's a complex deposit. It contains not only beryllium but different rare earth metals. Like tantalum, like silver, like gold, like some other materials. And now I can tell you that this is like one mistaken presentation with a point in 2.8. It's not 2.8. It's actually 28 million tons of ores. And regarding international research, this is around 5,500 tons of beryllium metal. And you maybe know that 1 kilo of beryllium, the price for 1 kilo is around from $500 to $1,000 per 1 kilo. Of course, the main asset of our company is not our deposits, but our team, our people, and our reputation. We have a very good team and very good professionals from different areas that now are focused on our projects. And we try to work only with the leaders of the market from this is usually multinational companies, and BGV Group, one of, I think that only one company we installed and pushed one plant with granite stones with very high equipped 1 month ago in Ukraine during the war, with all the equipment by Sandvik, by the Swedish company. Thank you for your attention, and this is some small information about our contacts, but actually if you have some questions, I will be able and available here to answer to them. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And yeah, now we'll move to the last presentation by Denis Alyoshin.
Okay, hello guys. Okay, so our company is named Ukr Lithium Mining. We are developing Poluchevska petalite ore deposit, which is located in central Ukraine, in Kirovograd region, also neighboring with the guys around us, so to say, in terms of the region. Basically, here I have like a top-level overview of the project. We have got a JORC-proved resource of 75 million tons. It's indicated and inferred. We will go further into it in next slides. We have something like between 15 to 20 years life of mine. So basically, our chain goes like this. There is a pegmatite ore, and in most of the hard rock ores, for battery-grade product, the mineral would be spodumene. So everyone is accustomed that a standard contract would be spodumene. We have a bit more challenging task here because our lithium-bearing mineral is petalite. The difference between spodumene and petalite is petalite has got a lower grade than spodumene. So basically, spodumene would have on average commercial contract would be 6.0 lithium oxide, whereby petalite goes in between 3 to 4% lithium oxide, which makes it a bit like lepidolite, which was the original lithium mineral which Chinese people were kind of using in their process flow sheets. The idea is to have the project is an underground mine and a beneficiation factory. We shall be producing petalite concentrate. Currently, we see it as something like in the range of 285,000 tons annual from 1.5 million tons of ore. So that is the estimate production for stage 1. Basically, when we think about our project, we say that there is a stage 1 development and then there is a stage 2 development. Stage 2 being more like a long-term goal or even a dream, if you may. So stage 1 is underground mine and concentrator. We currently estimate capital requirements at around 250 million, but that has been reassessed now during the PFS process that we are about to finish, like first half of 2023. And stage 2, we are contemplating to have a refinery, basically, which shall be producing lithium carbonate and lithium hydroxide. Together, it's going to be a pretty massive amount of investments, and even before the war started, it probably would be pretty difficult to bring such a amount of investment into our geography. That's why we divide it into 2 stages, and the plan is that once we have stage 1 going, running, and showing good results, then it would be much easier to discuss stage 2, basically. Now, this is kind of, that was about the project. Now, about our country, I'm speaking here about post-war outlook, because basically, we all do hope that war will end at some point. Basically, the major track that Ukraine is following now is trying to join the European Union, already having received this candidacy status. Obviously, it is probably very difficult to assess the exact timing which such a process would take. So it could be anywhere between 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Let's hope. So the sooner the better, obviously, and such an accession would definitely mean that all of the regulatory framework shall be aligned and the whole supply chain will be much easier to develop between our areas. So in terms of the project, we've got a production license. We are also, just like our colleagues from BGV, we are working with a number of top-tier international consultants, most of them coming from the European Union. We first started working with Ansaplan Dorfner in Germany, so our first round of metallurgical tests was done in their laboratories near Munich. Back then in 2020, we produced laboratory-scale petalite concentrate, and out of such petalite concentrate, we produced battery-grade lithium carbonate, which is a reference grade, basically. Then in March 2021, we had our JORC report completed. Now we are progressing through pre-feasibility study, which has been done by it's been done by AMC Consultants UK and Lycopodium ADP, which is a South African engineering company. And we are also now discussing to engage into this project Metso Autotech from Finland, because they have a very wide portfolio of both concentrators and refineries in lithium sphere. I've actually visited their laboratories last week in Finland, and we are getting now direct quotations from them for equipment so that we could better assess the CapEx requirements during our PFS stage. This is our anticipated project timeline. I have to say that obviously because of the war-related risks, this probably now looks like a bit of an aggressive scenario. We have done a lot in the previous years. Now the major goals for 2023 already probably is to finish pre-feasibility study, which we plan to do in the first half of 2023. We are also constantly working on improvement of yield for our concentrate. And another important thing, although this stage 2 being the refinery, the downstream refinery, this is something like a remote plan, but we do analyze it already now. So we have engaged Ansaplan Dorfner to prepare a PA level study on the economics and viability of refinery. And we have a twofold goal here, basically, because not only it will give us ideas about the economics of such a refinery, but even more important goal is to prove that from petalite concentrate, it is possible to produce lithium carbonate and lithium hydroxide, because now, as I've said, from hard rock ores, it's typically done from spodumene. Okay, now we've got 75 million tons of indicated and inferred resource. The in situ grade is 1.27%. We were about to start another massive drilling campaign, which was aimed at both preparing quite large amount of sample for the pilot plant works and also to upgrade our indicated resource into measured resource. Regrettably, most of the international companies doing the drilling have left the country because of the war. So now we have yet another pretty challenging task of basically purchasing a couple of drill rigs, training people, and trying to do that on our own rather than doing this on an outsourced base. So that is the plan actually for this year, because we understand that we cannot be stopping our process, and once we are done with PFS, we will be proceeding further with the project. Okay, we also have quite a large team working on that project. Basically, my background, I'm leading the project since 2019. I primarily have a financial background, like 15 years in investment banking. I do have some operational background working on kimberlite and alluvial diamonds in South Africa and some production concrete business in Ukraine. We have other experienced staff members, so our CFO is coming from large companies, both international and domestic. We have a very seasoned and experienced chief geologist. We also have people working for us as, doing the technology processes. We have a mining engineer, which is a professor in the local university, and we have a colleague of mine who is the investor relationship manager. We also have an expert team helping us, advising us basically on that project. We have two persons working for us. One of them is a guy who used to lead Galaxy Resources, which is a pretty large company that has merged with Orocobre and now is like probably top 5, top 10 lithium company. His name is Anthony De. So he's advising us. And a second person is Brian Talbot, who used to be for 5 years an operational director at Bikita Minerals, which is the only one so far operating company in the world that had been producing petalite concentrate. So basically this was our, let's say, closest peer, which this year was sold to a Chinese company for quite a hefty amount. Now, speaking about the market, basically, we are obviously getting a lot of research materials. Basically, the data that we are presenting here are from Wood Mackenzie and also from UBS Bank Research. So basically, the demand for electric vehicles is growing exponentially. Basically, I've been reading and studying the research materials already for 3 years, and the thing that I see pretty much each year is that the projects are always less than the actual situation with the demand. Another important factor that is actually something that I forgot to mention when presenting the project, when we are speaking petalite concentrate, we could be speaking about actually two different products. So we could be speaking about technical grade petalite concentrate, and we could be speaking about battery grade petalite concentrate. Technical grade is typically used in the ceramics and glass ceramics industry. So it's going to be like, Schott and Cobain, a number of European companies that potentially may be needing such a product. And obviously the battery grade market is a much wider market. Luckily enough for us, the technical characteristics for, so let's say the commercial commercial references for both products are pretty much the same. There are subtle deviations in potassium and some other minerals. So basically what we are doing now, we are working to have a product, to have petalite concentrate that could be sellable both to the technical grade market and to the battery grade market. Now, I've already mentioned this supply and demand situation. Again, the research figures in this area change pretty fast. The latest one that I have seen shows that by 2030, there is going to be something like a 3 million tons, it's in LCE, lithium carbonate equivalent, disbalance between supply side and demand side. Obviously, this is a pretty long range for forecasting, but the consumption so far, so 2021, we have seen something like 500,000 tons of LCE consumption. Basically, the consumption, the demand side is forecasted to grow in a very quick pace, which we already can see reflected in the prices for the product. So let's say we always monitor reference price for spodumene concentrate, because the price for our petalite concentrate naturally would be recalculated based on the lithium oxide grades. So when I started to work on the project, ton of spodumene concentrate was worth $380. Now it's between $5,000 and $6,000, and that is obviously reflected in prices for both hydroxide and carbonate. Okay, basically, this is our target market. We see that in the European Union, there is going to be a whole array of gigafactories, a whole array of battery plants that would require material, right? Basically, from my commercial negotiations, I do not imagine that we may be, when we are speaking about petalite concentrate as a product, not touching the refinery now, our major customers are actually going to be refineries. One interesting trend in the market today is that there is a rising concept of so-called commercial refinery, meaning that this is a refinery that initially intends to be purchasing their raw materials for carbonate and hydroxide from the market rather than to be having deposits of their own. So basically that is probably our primary target audience. I'm already in talks with 2 such companies, and ideally I think that the market would develop in such a way that there would be more such companies. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So I have some statistical data here on Ukraine, but that is just for your information if someone may be interested. Good, thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, and thanks to all the speakers. And I think it's really remarkable how much you have been able to do under very difficult circumstances. It's really fantastic. So we open up for a few questions. Just to remind you, of course, you'll have an opportunity to talk one-on-one with the companies later on. So now it's time to have any general questions that you might have to either all of them or individually. So please, I realize it's quite late, everybody's pretty tired, but if there are any questions? I think the wine and the champagne are waiting outside. Maybe if I can ask one question very quickly to all of you. If you could single out one single thing that you think we can provide to you from the ERMA's perspective, what can we do to support your project? What would be your answer? Who wants to start?
As for me, I think that we are all from Ukraine, and actually I think that there is no so many information about our country, especially in terms of the rare earth, different metals and minerals and critical materials. That's why maybe it was interesting for you, for all audience, that we can present and you can present this information not only on this conference, but actually worldwide in the European Union and different European structures. And I think that it can help a lot. Thank you.
My thinking would be that, I actually have two things I cannot single out. So one of them would be, let's say, competence and expertise, because being in Ukraine, it is difficult sometimes to get the skill set required for implementing and carrying out such an aggressive project. So that definitely would be number one. Number two, I would say that with this war going on, basically, I think that we would need some sort of a massive, not to say special treatment, but some sort of a approach that would enable the country to recover quickly after the war. And such a recovery, however they call it, like Marshall Plan, revitalization, whatever, effectively is going to be like reindustrialization of Ukraine. And that is, I think, where help would be much, much appreciated.
Very short and very practical. First, we would appreciate some help of sharing information about our commercial product. And the second one, the existing framework is okay, it works well, but for example, we do not want to apply it to for some refunding, for some financial assistance, but we would appreciate the possibility to, on a commercial basis, to reach some laboratories and to do some studies, because some studies that we started, for example, in hydrometallurgy, is simply stopped because of the rocket shelling.
Yeah, I think we are already in discussion, but I think definitely support and in understanding better what kind of grants and financial instruments are available for projects in Ukraine, especially in context when we hear all these big numbers, what are available and accessible for Ukraine as a country as such. And then I think that would be definitely a game changer, that if there would be a task group who really would guide those projects and accelerate them. Thanks.
Any more questions or comments from the floor? No, doesn't look like. Then I will just say a couple of words before I pass it on to Roman for the closing. So I just wanted to thank you all again. We started the process. We know it will be a long process, but as I said before, as Peter mentioned, we are here for the long haul. So we are looking forward to having more of these events in the future. And from my perspective, you're very welcome to get in touch with me to hear more, understand more about how ERMA works. We have a regional office that is based in Poland that takes care of all the projects that are situated in Eastern and Southeastern Europe. So we have a team there of people in addition to myself who can help you understand what we can do for you and understand how we can collaborate. And of course, we have a network of, when you put it all together, it's between ERMA and EIT Raw Materials, we have more than 600 industries, consulting companies, manufacturing company, mining, exploration, and you name it, who are here to help us achieve that goal of securing raw materials for Europe's industrial ecosystem. So from my side, thank you very much. I'll just leave the word to Roman to close this meeting, and then we can move on to, so I remind you, there's time later on for individual discussions with the companies.
Thank you so much, Massimo. So to sum up, today we got the information about the investment atlas with gathering 30 vacant unlicensed sites, focusing primarily on pioneer mining companies. Secondly, 5 mining projects in Ukraine were presented, managed by four companies, 4 firms, members of ERMA. They had a bunch of the data prepared in a proper way, actually, according to the international classification, reserves assessment, and so on. It's back to the quality of the data, so it always depends. Total cost of full cycle realization of this project accounts for, I believe, from 2.5 to 5 billion euro or dollars, whatever. So pretty heavy. And everyone understands it's pretty costly business. That's why the support of the government, support of the international institutions, it's pretty demanded. All of this, all projects are open for partnership regarding funding and technical expertise for the joint venture. We got the information about the institutional investors as EIB and EBRD, got the expectations and their thoughts, and we're pretty happy that the banks, the European banks, estimate the options to participate, to support such a projects. And finally, eventually, we are going to launch the hub with all of this data which you saw today. So we are gathering the presentation, we'll make the short sum up of this project. It will be available to everyone to look on it. And really appreciate if you can spread it through the network of ERMA and European Business, European Battery Alliance. Again, thank you so much. Thanks. Great job.